Hello, it's Monday Motivation, and I wanted to have a quick word with you today about the off-the-track thoroughbred or the off-the-track standard bred. Now, I actually have a special module for the thoroughbred and the standard bred, but it's more focused on the thoroughbred at the moment in my training, because the fact is that we often assume that these horses, because they've raced and because especially the thoroughbreds, that they've been broken in, because they've been ridden, we see, oh, they've already been started under saddle, so that's really helpful for us. And it's actually not terribly helpful for us, because whilst they have been habituated to wearing a saddle and you can get on them, they're okay like that, they've been habituated to having somebody ride them. They're often don't know much more than that. So often their brakes aren't very good, they don't really turn and steer very much. And really, when you think about the training of the racehorse, what they're really doing is repeating the flight instinct over and over and over again. So these horses are really good at responding with flight, which is not something we want as pleasure riders, of course. So I wanted to just point this out because I'm starting a couple of demos and clinics. I'm just doing locally first. I've got one coming up in Brisbane. I'm just checking that date for you. It's a free clinic on the 26th of this month, and I'm sorry, a free demonstration followed by a clinic, and then clinics the following day. And I'm being hosted by the lovely Standardbred Association of Queensland, their horse adoption program, which is super. And I'm really looking forward to it. So we're going to that weekend, we're going to really concentrate on the standard breds, but I'm going to video that demonstration for you as well, so that that'll be available, because not everyone can come to Brisbane, especially if you're living in the UK. And I think that a lot of that is going to transfer across, of course, to the thoroughbreds, but that weekend I'm also going to be making some content for you that is going to be specific to the standard breds, so that next month when you log into your online training, you'll see not only the off-the-track thoroughbred module there, but also an off-the-track standard bred module there. Now, of course, all the training is the same. The foundation, we want the horse to learn all the foundation training. It's just that we approach it slightly differently with these horses, because they're not a blank canvas. They've already got training. So really what we do with these horses is we untrain what we don't want, and then we retrain what we do want. So they've got some unlearning to do. They've developed this system of responding to cues, and that really isn't often what we want them to do. The standardbreds are slightly different because they're not ridden, and they're also perhaps handled by less experienced horse people for that reason. Because you don't have to ride them, you're just handling them. And what I find with the standardbreds is that does usually make them very quiet on the ground. And you can be a bit sort of misguided, thinking, oh, this horse is terribly quiet on the ground, therefore it'll be terribly quiet under saddle. But you've got to remember that it hasn't actually started to saddle, so you don't really know how it's going to respond under saddle until you start teaching it the foundation training. With both of these horses that have had this history, they both need a lot of give to the bit work. And those of you that know my training know that the give to the bit is the cornerstone of all of my training. The give to the bit, yes, it does put your horse in that nice round outline so it looks a bit like dressage, but it's not about that. It's not about how the horse looks. It's about how the horse's emotional level is. So it's about getting the horse into the engagement zone where you're nice and safe in that bubble of communication. Now, these off-the-track horses have never been there. So this is really new for them, because as you can imagine, the engagement zone is not the first thing on the jockey's mind as he's standing in the starting gate. Yeah? The jockey is just thinking about, God, I hope this horse leaps out of that starting gate. So they do have a lot to learn about relaxation. Nothing in their past has begun with relaxation, and that's where we start. There's no point in trying to teach the horse something unless the horse is relaxed. So why is give to the bit so good for this and so good for the off-the-track horses? Well, because it's such a simple pressure release exercise. So you put a bit of pressure on, the horse responds to that in the correct way. It can move 6 directions. We wait for one direction of movement that we want, then we release it. So it's pressure, response, release, reward. And very quickly the horse goes, oh, okay, so you pick up pressure, I move my head here, or I move my foot there a little bit later on, and you release all that pressure. That's grand. You know, I love that, because before, both these horses, both the standardbreds and the thoroughbreds, had spent most of their lives, or most of their ridden or being driven careers with unrelenting pressure. Now that means pressure in the mouth that just never goes away for any reason. So it doesn't matter what the horse does, it has to put up with that pressure. So it's been habituated to that amount of pressure. Now, whilst it's great to habituate your horse to wearing a saddle or being ridden, that's great. Habituating your horse to pressure in the mouth is not such a good thing, because you then have to resensitize your horse to that cue, unless you plan and are happy to use increasing amounts of pressure to get the same response. So that's why Give to the Bit is so important with these off-the-track horses. And what I find with them is usually, you know, quite often you'll get on an off-the-track horse. Well, frankly, I wouldn't, but some people do. As soon as they're off the track and you go to pick up the reins to ask it to turn or stop or slow or something, and the horse just completely ignores you, because it doesn't have that response. It's not a naughty horse, it's just an untrained horse. And so the Give to the Bit is great because it involves the horse in the learning process. The horse realizes that there is a release and reward for doing the right thing, and the horse starts to really engage with the lesson. That's why I call it the engagement zone, because it actually gets the horse to start thinking. And you do develop this conversation which keeps you both safe in this bubble. So I encourage you to go along and have a look at the off-the-track module that's already in the training. And I'd be interested to hear from you. You tell me what you think about that, and if there's something in particular that you'd like to see in there. You know, do you have a particular issue with your off-the-track horse, be it standardbred or thoroughbred, that you don't feel is covered? Because I'd like to cover that for you and make sure that that is in the training as soon as I can get it in there. But you'll have to tell me whether it is or not. All right, that would be great, and I would love to hear from you. And Felicity, yeah, hi. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it is really sad that there's no release from pressure. And interestingly, if you go along to my off-the-track module, in the overview there, I've taken some footage of a very nice horse that I saw at a what was it, a tried stock sale, I think they call it, where they sell the horses that are already racing. And it's a great place to go if you want to pick up a beautiful horse for a cheap price. Anyway, I'd spotted this horse and he was very nice. I asked the handler to get him out for me and trot him up. And that's the video that you see. And you then see that same horse going into the sale ring. Anyway, the handler, when I was chatting to him, I said, oh, how much do you think he's going to go for? You know, he said, oh, I don't know, 2,000 maybe. Anyway, I really liked him. And I thought, 2,000, that's all right. So I was there bidding next to a friend of mine who was encouraging me all the way. And it got up to 10,000. I found my hand going up. And I'm going, no. Anyway, I think the horse eventually sold for about 12. It was clearly going straight back to the track, poor thing. But just watch that video and see this handler, very nice chap, but he's constantly yanking on this horse's mouth, like for no reason at all. It doesn't matter if the horse is standing still or if the horse has got his head up and is looking around, if the horse is rearing, it doesn't make any difference. It's still being jabbed in the mouth, like constantly. It must be very, very annoying. It's certainly terribly desensitizing. So you've got to take a horse like that and you've got to say, right, you've been taught to put up with that, just to live with that. Now, this is something new. This is something new, and I'm going to teach you something else. If you feel pressure, even a little bit of pressure somewhere, maybe on your mouth, maybe on your side, maybe on your pole, wherever you respond to that, it will be released, and it will be released in its entirety. So anyway, that I find when you first start teaching these off-the-track horses, that they go, wow, this is so nice, this is so easy. And it's really good to see that light bulb moment with these horses. And they're such a pleasure to work with because of that. Anyway, I look forward to hearing from you. I will see you tomorrow with Tuesday's training from inside the training. And of course, we'll have a look at the off the track module while we're there. Bye.